Hello, everybody, and welcome to Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary. Today I'm going to be looking at the Kryst code, um, or the crystalline code, Kryst consciousness. Some people call it Christ consciousness, but I have it with a K, so it's Kryst for me. Um, what we're going to be looking at is the connection to not only Gaia, but how this really truly is the creational energy of this realm, and that this is the energy that once we've lost the shackles of the other system, which is the Fibonacci, once we've dropped that system, we will then be in a position to really come online. Now, I think the Chris code. I've actually done the pendulum on this. Just I had a knowing, but I've done the pendulum, and the Chris code will be responsible for us going and activating our DNA to the 12 strands or however many strands are needed. So yeah, the Chris code is very, very important, and it's definitely the creational code and of this realm. And I'm going to try and explain how it fits in to that and back up my bold statement of the Chris code is the creational code, and is fundamentally linked to Gaia. And also currently we have the Three Eye Atlas coming in, and Isabella did a very, very interesting show a couple of days ago, day or so ago. Looking at the Three Eye Atlas. I've also done with Gordon Three Eye Atlas, and we had very similar results really, which is always good, always good. But Isabella said that the Three Eye Atlas was going to come in and was going to remove the shackles, or would be the technology. They would use technology to take down the demonics, and for me the demonics are the Fibonacci, and nothing to do with creation. So I've put a slideshow together just to try and go through. Now I'm not going to be looking at the Fibonacci too much. I've got quite a few shows I've done previously with the about the Fibonacci, Metatron's cube, the Merkaba, the New Age movement, sacred geometry, and the falsehood of all of this. So please look it up. I'll try and put as many links as I can into the bottom down here in the description. So when you click on the description, scroll down, and you'll have other shows that I can do, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm going to be looking at some sort of technical stuff almost. For some of you, it'll be new, and some of my older um, members, subscribers, they would have seen some of this stuff before. But it's the context of the fact that the Christ code is the creational code, and this is what's going to take us through into the higher frequencies, the higher dimensional realm of consciousness, fundamentally. So, without further ado, I will start my slideshow. Okay, so I've got a menu bar at the top I just need to get rid of. There we go. So, so there we go. So fundamentally, we're talking about the Chris code, or the lotus of life. Now, we're not talking about the flower of life, we're talking the lotus of life. Very big distinction. And fundamentally, when we look at the Chris code or the lotus of life on the 2D format, we get this. So what we get is we get the flower in the inside, and from this comes this toroidal field of energy that loops upon itself. It's a looping creational energy. So we're going to go through some of the differences from the Fibonacci, but also look at how this is different as well. Because I think once you can get your head around this, I mean, it took me a very, very long time to get my head around all of this, I have to say. Probably nearly 2 years to really understand exactly what I was looking at and what I was talking about, as well as finding some of the things that I'll be talking about in this presentation. So when we talk about the Fibonacci sequence, the Fibonacci is in red, which is the Metatronic cube, Metatron's cube, the control mechanism, the dark, okay, the negative. And then we have the crystal, which is in blue. Now, we have been told a lie for, what a surprise, but we have been told a lie for many, many years. And that's that nature follows the Fibonacci sequence. Well, that is a complete lie. It's a misdirection. And it's certainly something that has been deliberately done upon us. I think for at least 3000 BC, I have images of the Metatronic symbolism, which is connected to Baal and the sacrifices that they did, which is the third party parasitical energy that has been keeping us in chains fundamentally for a very, very long time. Now, the Metatronic cube or the Fibonacci sequence looks very, very similar to the crystal code, which is the creational code. So if we took a snail or a nautilus shell or even looked at above a tree or a flower or plant, you'd say, oh look, that shape, that's the Fibonacci. Well, yeah, it does look very similar to the untrained eye. It's only when you put the two over the top of each other, as has been done here, that you can really see the difference. And you can see that they look very, very similar, but they are different. And that difference is key because remember, any system that uses a falsehood can be 90% correct and 10% wrong. So somebody could be gaslighting you and they would give you 90% truth, but the 10% would be the gaslighting part that would send you down the wrong path. And this is exactly what we get here. So it's very, very, very similar until we get to the seventh axis, and then things change drastically. And we'll go more into that in a minute. But as we can see, if you laid a snail shell here, and like this, the snail's entrance was here, the snail coming out, or a seashell or something like that, it would look exactly the same, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference either. Okay. And you think, for most of my life, I've been fooled by this as well. So to go back to my original statement of creational energy is the Kryst code, we have to go into a little bit of science. And we're going to look at the double slit experiment. I think the first time it was done is 1801 by a guy called Thomas. But certainly the double slit experiment has been going for a very, very long time. And it's been a consistent experiment from 1801 onwards. And what's very interesting is that the interference pattern is always the same. And this is key to understanding where we're going and give us a foundation of what we're looking at. So for those who don't know what the double slit experiment is, fundamentally matter. Now initially it was light waves, light, but this could be protons, photons, electrons, neutrinos, it's ions, whichever way you want to look at it. protons, photons, it's all the same stuff. Okay, it's all matter. And so I'm going to be using the term matter. And I may even use atomic matter, but I'm talking atom as an atom matter, not atomic as in bomb, which is another one that we could go down a rabbit hole with. So anyway, what happened is scientists fired a single piece of matter at a plate, and when they observed it on the back here, they got two lines, a line here and a line here, that lined up perfectly with the two slots. Okay. So when they observed the experiment, they got exactly what they expected to see. They saw that the material went through and we got two lines on the wall. They then set the experiment up again and they left it running without looking at it. And when they came back, they found multiple lines across the wall. This is fundamentally a wall or a plate at the back. So they had been fine matter, observing it and getting two lines. And when they fired matter without observing it, they got this effect across the back wall, multiple lines of equidistance gap. Okay. And what they discovered was that when matter is not being observed, it is neither one thing or another thing. It's in a stasis of readiness, if you want to put it in language that we can understand, you know. So it's a bit like the Schrodinger's cat experiment. When you put a cat inside a box with a vial of poison that could break at any time, and when you close the box, the cat is both dead and alive at the same time. And when you open the box, the cat is either alive because the vial of poison hasn't gone off, or the vial has broken and the cat's passed. Now, obviously, they didn't do that experiment physically. It's a thought experiment, but it shows that something can be a duality in two different parts of stasis at the same time. Okay. And what they found was that matter that was fired through these plates when not observed was in a state of readiness. But what it did is it created an interference pattern. So it hit the wall and kind of bounced back, or it came through and it hit itself here and it created this pattern, this waveform. And this waveform that we see is the same through every single double slit experiment. It never changes. Always the same waveform pattern. Okay, so if you want to look up this stuff on my Telegram group, if you've there's a search button at the top on Telegram. So when you're on Telegram, if you go to the top corner and there's like three dots, if you press on that, there's a little little search icon. You press that, and you can put like double, and then press enter, and every single word that says double that's ever been on that page will come up in an order, and then you can find stuff. Or you can go into the actual, if you press the bar at the top, it'll then come and show you all the media and files and links and that sort of stuff. So in my Telegram channel, I have the double slit experiment in a form that's very easy to understand. It's a guy called Professor Proton. Okay, and although it's a cartoon, the science is correct, and the science and the cartoon is just easier for me to understand when I was getting my head around this, and I think it'd be beneficial for you, lovely Femi, girls and guys. if you wanted to look into that. But it's very interesting, okay? But so we have an interference pattern when matter is not being observed, which then goes into the matrix or the troidal field of consciousness that I believe that we not believe, I know that we're in, because this proves it. So this is a matrix. This is a construct of consciousness. And when a consciousness looks at something, it creates. And the creation is from our consciousness as we're linked into the atomic matter, atoms and matter of ions, protons, photons, such like neutrinos, that then create this waveform. And if we want to see something, it will be created because we see it and we create it, and the atoms then create the thing that we see. Okay, quite deep, I know, but I do have other um, other shows that I've done on this, other videos. So please go through the back catalogue and scroll through. I'm sure you'll find something of interest. So when we look at it from overhead, this is the pattern. Now, this is our Kryst code or lotus of life cut in half. And this is the Fibonacci, the days of death or Metatron's cube, you know, the Merkaba. This is the interference pattern that's always the same, which is nature. This is creational. Does the Fibonacci overlay on this in any way, shape, or form? Or does the lotus of life? Now, it's very clear to me that the lotus of life does. You know, we have like a triangle here, we have a triangle here, and then above the triangle we have a strange shaped square, and we have a strange shaped square, and as it goes off, we can see that we have similarities. Now I know we're not laying it over the top of each other and it's not perfect, but you can see that if you change the frequency band or I adjusted the image, we could get an overlay perfectly. That cannot be done on the Fibonacci. It's completely different. So we have the double slit experiment, which is the creational energy that creates the realm that has no correlation to the Fibonacci, but does to the Kryst code or the lotus of life. And here we are. It's hopefully a little bit clearer. We can quite clearly see like the bud here, the bud here. We have I know it's not quite the same, but we can see all the patternation is there. And if I stretch this out even wider at the top, I'd get it to look even more similar. But as you can see very clearly, like here now, see how that one is? Look, it's almost a triangle. Look, almost a triangle with a curve. Look, almost a triangle with a curve. That and that fit perfectly. So, the crystal lotus flower of life versus the Metatronic flower of death. This is creational, consciousness, open source, and this is fragmented and finite consciousness. It's closed source. So closed source means for it to grow and maintain, it has to feed off something, like loosh, like energy, like fear, just like Monsters Inc., just like any parasite. This is creational, open source, and actually is made up of positive and negative charge, which gives it this ability. And we'll go into that shortly. So the math and the sequence is very interesting because the lotus of life can represent or regrow from itself. And in this representation, we have a blue and brown, positive and negative, okay, in a duality. And again, you can still see that double slit experiment, taking it in half. You can see the shape perfectly. And so what happens is it can grow from itself because it has positive and negative ions, so they can create. So from the beginning, we have one. And to get to two, it will double upon itself because it has the ability to double and grow because it has the positive negative ions. So we go from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 to 128. Now the Fibonacci sequence, being parasitical, has no duality. It has no positive and negative charge. So the only way it can grow is to feed upon itself. So once we get the parasitical creational part on, to go from 1 to 2, it'll feed upon itself. So it'll go back, feed on its loosh, go to 2. To get to 3, it's 2 plus 1 is 3. To get to 5, it's 3 plus 2. It's had to feed upon itself again. To get to 8, 5 plus 3. And so on and so on and so on. So the Fibonacci is always feeding upon itself, and it gets to a stage on the 7th cycle where if it hasn't got parasitical energy to feed upon, it will collapse. Now the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio, or the golden mean, whichever whatever they want to call it, and apparently Pythagoras did all this stuff, and there was a guy called Fibonacci, and all great in it, eh? Accept the mainstream math, accept the mainstream narrative, accept the mainstream teachings, and yet we know school is mind control, and yet we accept certain aspects of this without question. Well, I questioned it. So the Fibonacci sequence is 1.618, and the Kryst code is 1.414 in math. So here we go. We can see, so the red is the Fibonacci, and the blue is the Kryst. Overlaid each other, you can't tell the difference. But when we take a shell, and this is a nautilus, could be a snail, it could be anything. Although it's based on the width versus height and not the spirals, when we look at this, we get a 1.33. Now 1.33 is a darn sight closer to the Kryst code than it is the Fibonacci. Fibonacci is hugely off this natural. And again, when like I said, when you've got the two together like this, you can kind of see it. If you saw that, because of the brainwashing that we've had, we would say, oh look, it's the Fibonacci sequence in that. Well, it's not. It's the Kryst code. It's creational energy. This shell would not be able to be formed the way we see it unless it was parasitically feeding off something else. So very interesting. Very interesting. Now, we're going to look here about axis 7, okay? Because fundamentally, when we first start, it's fairly close. But axis 7, the 7th cycle, we get a split. Now, I'm sure you've all seen these kind of images, and the two's got its own name as well, and it's all used in maths, isn't it? And we're all showing it. But when we take cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 7 creates the first daisy of death. And at this point, if there's no loosh to feed on, it will collapse. It will have taken all the energy around itself that it could take from the crystal spiral, from the energy of the realm. We are in an electromagnetic realm. So the Fibonacci can only get so big before it will collapse upon itself, unless it has something to feed upon. Now, one of the questions I've been asked is why is the Fibonacci sequence inside the Great Pyramid of Giza? And it is. Well, I'm firmly of the opinion that the reason why the Fibonacci sequence is inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, there's two possibilities. One is entrapment and enslavement, because the Pyramid of Giza was, I believe, a machine. It ran and uploaded something into the holography. But I go on to the fact that the Fibonacci was inside the Great Pyramid of Giza to upload into the holography a collapse of the holography, a collapse of the third party parasitical energy that has been feeding off us and then keeping us entrapped. Now, there's two options there. Whichever one you feel, I'm an optimist, as you know, in many ways. In this, it's not inside the Great Pyramid of Giza by accident. It was placed there to put information into this realm, into this Troidal field of consciousness. And I'm of the opinion it was put in to create a change and a timeline split, a change from one thing to another. We are, time-wise, I believe, in Axis 7 now. Just past it, in fact. And what that means is the two sequences are splitting. The Fibonacci spiral sequence is 3D. The crystal spiral or Kryst code is 5D. And we're seeing this split now. Now, it's very interesting when you say, okay, day 7, it needs something to feed on, and then it collapses. Have I got any sort of anecdotal evidence, something that I've observed from somebody else or somewhere else that's created an issue? Well, yeah, I have. Jason of Archaics has got isometric projections, and this is probably 2 years ago plus. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. He was talking about his isometric projections in, I think it was Discord at the time. At the time, he was on Discord before he left. And he would say that the isometric projections that he did would work perfectly up to the point where he got 7, a seventh cycle. Then on the 8th, it would collapse, and the predictions would be wrong. So I thought about this, and I thought, well, I know that the Fibonacci after 7, if it's got nothing to feed on, will collapse. And so that to me was, and he has the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, golden mean programmed into his system, by the way. Okay. And so there we go. up until the point we get to the seventh, everything that he's done in the computer works, and then after seven it collapses. Tried to talk to him about it, but he weren't having it. So there we go. And again, to be fair, at the time I didn't have it quite pinned down in the way that I do now, and how I would be able to explain it. So but we're here at the moment. And this means Gaia, who's been under for fun. So if you if you take this, okay, we have the Fibonacci sequence has come in and it's been on top of and controlling Gaia. And as it's gone round, you can see that it's been on top of Gaia. It's been a dominant force. We're talking about a negative third party demonic force. We now have a period where Gaia is coming online. She's come online and she's grown in strength. And we then have the Fibonacci going to fundamentally collapse upon itself. And again, it's been foreseen that there's going to be collapses and destructions coming up in 2040, 2046, again by Archaics, but Mother Shipton and others have done this. So it's very, very interesting. And I believe that we're in this period now. And it's very interesting that we have the 3i Atlas craft, multi-dimensional craft coming in, I think, to assist this changeover, to make sure that the Fibonacci spiraled creatures in this realm are removed and that we can continue on. And that's a multi-layered thing, that one. It really is. Because when we're talking about that, as the Wizard of Oz, we were talking about this last night, and tangent time. And what it was she said, you know what? She said, this free eye atlas, it's like Back to the Future. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, she said, they affected the timeline. And because they affected the timeline, if they didn't go back to the future to sort of set it and redo what they did, you know, they wouldn't have existed anymore. They would have gone because of the collapse. Now, time isn't fluid. It's not a straight line as we're told. It's fluid, multi-dimensional, and it's a spiral. Okay. If the Fibonacci sequence is successful in trapping humanity, and it feeds upon humanity to the point in which it destroys humanity with digital IDs and all the other claptrap that they're going to trying to put in, not to be successful, but all that kind of claptrap shenanigans, and mankind goes into slavery and eventually would fail. And at the point of that, when sentient beings fail and pass, then those on the higher timeline cease to exist because there's no basis, no base for them to come from. It's a symbiotic relationship. So the 3i Atlas and other craft, multi-dimensional craft coming into this realm, yeah, they're coming here to help us and to ensure our survival, but they're also doing it to ensure their survival. So this is Metatron's cube. This is what you get when you make the Daisy of Death. This is the Fibonacci sequence. This sits inside the Fibonacci. Okay? This is your sacred geometry. Really is not. Watch my videos on it. And this is the Star of Rempran. Remember? I should have really put it in and forgot again. I've got an image of the Star of Rempran with the Daisy of Death in the centre in 3000 BC, used for sacrifice. I now call them the brown star. No, I'm not talking about the general people. I'm just talking about that small percentage who are the Baal worshippers. And here we go. The Fibonacci triangle, triangle is the Star of Rembrandt, which is Star of David. And here we have it in the Masonic, the Seal of Solomon, the seal of the soul of man. It seals the light and the solar with dark lunar and controls the feminine. Remember, I talked about Gaia being under control, under, and now it's Gaia's coming out, the split's coming. We have a choice. And this is what I'm talking about. I hope that makes sense. So this is sacred geometry. This is the cube. This is the black cube. We see the black cube everywhere. From passing college with the square hat to what certain religion sticks on their head to what another religion walks around. It's a big black cube. To going to 9/11 and looking at ground zero and you see two black cubes in the ground. But the black cube can also be opened out and create a cross, Star of David. This is the Merkaba. What the New Age do their guided meditations on. I took a lot of flack for this one from a few people, triggered a few people, said I was in fear. No, I'm just trying to warn everybody that when you do a Merkaba meditation, you're feeding demonic entities. You're feeding the parasite. You're feeding the 3D. The thing you're fighting against is what you're feeding when you're playing the game with this thing. And again, got very good video on that one. Again, more images. It's all there. I'm not going to go any further into this one. But the Star of David's all in here. That Star of David's there. It's all through it. So this is fundamentally the crystalline code is a 12 Cathara grid. And what's meant by that is that it's 12, so it's balanced and it has positive and negative ions. The Fibonacci sequence is a 10. So this part here at the top isn't there, fundamentally. It's gone. And you only get a part of it, which means to get that extra bit, it has to feed on something. Okay? Like I said, Fibonacci took over from Gaia. There's a battle when the moon came in. 4039 BC, something like that. The moon came in. There's pre-moon and after moon. The moon is part of the Fibonacci sequence. It powers it, allowed it to come in. It was part of the initial bush. And this is when we talk about Ionis or Janus, all the same stuff. Again, look at the Janus stuff, look at the imagery, look at what I talk about. It's all connected, all connected. And so Gaia was given the option of fighting and the destruction of the realm, the consciousness, or being subservient to divine masculine of the Metatronic cube and the Fibonacci. And so the Fibonacci took over, top dog, but obviously Gaia was always needed to be fed off. We're here now, the split's coming, and the Fibonacci, which is 3D, is going to collapse, and the Fibonacci of 5D is going to go and go and go and take us to new consciousnesses, new experiences, new levels of understanding. Now, I've left the Fibonacci crystal so you can see what I'm talking about here. When we had that 12 grid, look, we can see how the energy flows, which creates that beautiful flower of the lotus flower. Now, when you break this down into this, we have negative and positive ions that create this flow of energy. Remember, it's an electromagnetic realm. Electromagnetic. You get a balloon and you rub it against your hair and make your hair stand up, and the balloon can stick to your hand. It can stick to anything. Yeah. A nucleus. This is an atom. We have a proton, neutron, nucleus. But what is it? It's positive and negatively charged. This is the matter that was shot through the double slit experiment, remember? What we see here is this, which is this. It's all creational energy. And here we have this 12 kafara grid. This is it. So we have small, and it grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger, smaller and smaller, because it can self-replicate, because it has the positive and negative energy, which is exactly the same as we see in matter. Creation. This is all creational energy. The building blocks of nature, building blocks of us. None of this is Fibonacci. This is all crystalline code. This is all crystal spiral, Christ consciousness, if you want to put it that way. Double slits, a more modern version of it. Pattern's always the same. Always the same. Now, I've talked about troidal fields and troidal field of consciousness and the electromagnetics. Well, here we are. We have a north and south magnet, north, south, and that will create an invisible troidal field. This is us with the heart brain. Remember, we have the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. And the center part, which is the heart brain, produces a troidal field, an energy field, because we're electromagnetic. That's why we have water, salt water in our bodies. If somebody has a heart attack, they give them saline, huge amounts of salt, get the body going again. You know, wonder why there's a war on salt. Minerals. Think about it. So we create troidal field, an energy field. A magnet creates a troidal field, an energy field. We live inside a troidal field of consciousness, and we're in this little bit right in the middle. And if you look at the top of a human toroidal field and look from above, that's the pattern you get. The pattern we started with originally, which is the Kryst code, or the lotus of life. Everything is connected. This is all creational, pure energy. We're creational energy. We can create other human beings from ourselves. All connected to the toroidal field consciousness. When we walk on the ground is negatively charged, the air is positively charged, creates a toroidal field even stronger, grounds us, balances us. That's why we need to go out and ground ourselves to reaffirm our toroidal field, our connection to the realm toroidal field. Remember, I've spoken before in shows about Russian dolls and said it's a toroidal field inside a toroidal field inside a toroidal field inside a toroidal field. Even the blade of grass has got a toroidal field. Even an ant's got a toroidal field. They all connect into, like a Russian doll, all the way out. And when you observe it from the top, look at the head. That's us with the toroidal field coming out. That's why they had the 6 foot apart or 2 meters or whatever it was rule during the scamdemic to break the toroidal fields, to install the fear, to diminish your energy, create victims, loosh, to feed their masters. And again, I've done toroidal fields, flat, round, or neither. I've looked at toroidal fields. I've gone into this as well. Okay, there's a big back catalogue of information that I have. If you watched them before, hopefully this is good. Oh, that connects to this. This connects to that. Every video I've done kind of connects to each other. Not necessarily in a sequential order, obviously, but it all connects. Because we have the beauty of the realm, the creational energy, the pure energy is the Kryst code, Kryst consciousness, and the lotus of life. And when this is super powerful and comes online properly via the 3i Atlas or some other kind of ship or craft that they have that will take down the Fibonacci sequence, we're going to come online, and our DNA is going to come online, consciousness is going to go through the roof, and we're going to become one with Gaia again. True synergy of beauty, love, and light. And with that, that's the end of the show. So I hope you've got an idea now about the Kryst code and how the importance of it, the creational energy, the double slit, the waveform pattern that is the Kryst code, that is not the Fibonacci, and how when you overlay the two, they look so similar, but you can see the difference. We're going to be going through some amazing times soon. We're in the storm already. And the real fight is between the Fibonacci and the Kryst code. That's the true fight. That's the true battle going on. And the more you free the mind, the closer you get to Christ consciousness, the connection with Gaia and the 5D. And with that, love, light, and blessings, everybody. I shall catch up with you very soon. Bye-bye.